You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
You know, we have the chief of staff for President Obama is an old friend of mine and my husband's, and was in the White House when Bill was there, and he said, you know, never waste a good crisis.
That's why my administration is committed to doing all that's necessary to address this crisis and lead us to a better day. I'll make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure that our business is people's business. And as president, I'm going to make it impossible for congressmen or lobbyists to slip pork barrel projects or corporate welfare into laws when no one's looking, because when I'm president, meetings where laws are written will be more open to the public, no more secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president. No more secrecy. And when there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it, so that you know what your government's doing. When there are meetings between lobbyists and a government agency, we'll put as many of those meetings as possible online for every American to watch. When there's a tax bill being debated in Congress, you will know the names of the corporations that would benefit and how much money they would get. And we will put every corporate tax break and every pork barrel project online for every American to see. You will know who asked for them, and you can decide whether your representative is actually representing you.
But we'll start with the oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's getting worse. For the first time, BP is reporting more than 210,000 gallons of oil are leaking out of the broken well every day. A live picture, video, streaming live from the site of that well. It breaks up from time to time, but you get the idea. This is coming through a congressional website provided by BP. You can see the oil is still pouring into the water. BP has been using the figure of 210,000 gallons a day for weeks, but they never could tell us how they came up with it. And they wouldn't let independent observers go down and find out exactly how much is coming out. Today, a spokesman for the company said the tube that is siphoning oil from the leak is collecting 210,000 gallons a day. He also said some oil is escaping, but he wouldn't say how much. There's a lot they won't say. Clearly, that means more oil is coming out than they had previously reported. Several scientists have estimated the leak could be 10 times greater than BP's estimates. And many suggest we could have had the equivalent of 4 to 5 Exxon Valdez spills already. But we can't get a straight answer out of anybody.
So the persistent question and growing criticism, is the government giving BP too much leeway, and should it take more control of the situation? This afternoon, a top BP official said, quote, "It is clearly within the government's power to take over operations if it wants to."
People want to know, and there's a good deal of frustration, particularly down in these states where they're sort of watching, they feel helplessly, this oil coming at them either under the surface or on top of it. And they say, why is BP in control now? They don't trust BP.
To push BP out of the way would raise a question to replace them with what?
Do you think that this government right now is doing the best it can?
I want to read you a quote, Admiral. This is from BP's chief operating officer in the New York Times, and he said, quote, "There are not much additional available resources in the world to fight this thing offshore. We've basically thrown everything we have at it." Given that, it seems to me that right now you're sort of dependent on somebody trying to figure out how to stop this leak, and otherwise you're just going to be standing on the shore trying to keep this from coming in.
The President's overriding message today was that the federal government, he said, has been and is in charge of this response to this spill, and he said that's been the case from the very beginning.
Even the President admitting today it's impossible to know if BP's latest fix will work.
If it's successful, and there's no guarantees, it should greatly reduce or eliminate the flow of oil now streaming into the Gulf from the seafloor. And if it's not, there are other approaches that may be viable.
Mr. Brown, thanks for being with us. You've made some pretty stunning statements about this oil spill and the response by the president. You said that the Obama administration wanted the oil to spread, wanted it to go up the East Coast because, quote, now he can pander to the environmentalists and say I'm going to shut it down because it's too dangerous. Do you honestly believe the President of the United States wants this oil spill to spread, cause billions of dollars in damage, ruin people's livelihoods?
Well, that's not what I said, Anderson. I said that they want this crisis so that they can respond to it. Look, nobody wants the oil to go into Louisiana.
That is what you said. You said about it spreading up the East Coast, and you said that's what they want.
I've read the transcript again, and what I said was that they want this crisis. I said it may spread to Louisiana, and depending on the NOAA forecast, it could go up the Florida coast.
And you said that's what they want.
They want a crisis like this so that they can use a crisis like this to shut down offshore oil and gas drilling.
What evidence do you have of that?
We should not do that. We should expand. Pardon?
What evidence? I mean, as a former government official, I think you would choose your words carefully. What evidence do you have that they want this? That this is basically a plot to shut down oil?
In January, the president gave an interview to the San Francisco Chronicle in which he said that cap-and-trade legislation should be as strong as possible so that anybody that wants to use carbon, coal, oil and gas, whatever, that it would be so expensive that they'd end up going bankrupt. The president wants to move this country away from a carbon-based energy supply
my question is,
to something else.
My question is, what evidence do you have that the president of the United States wants this spill to spread, wants it, that they want it to go up the East Coast, that they want this so that they can shut down oil drill?
This is an opportunity. What used to be long-term problems, be they in the healthcare area, energy area, education area, fiscal area, tax area, regulatory reform area, things that we had postponed for too long that were long-term are now immediate and must be dealt with. And this crisis provides the opportunity for us, as I would say, the opportunity to do things that you could not do before. The good news, I suppose, if you want to see a silver lining, is the problems are big enough that they lend themselves to ideas from both parties for the solution.
White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel recently remarked, "You never want to let a serious crisis go to waste." And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. In a nutshell, Emanuel described a philosophy advanced by one of the fathers of the Enlightenment, George Hegel. Students of Hegel labeled his three-part theory the Hegelian dialectic. Students of Karl Marx call it management by crisis, and it was adopted as a centerpiece of communism. Under Hegel's theory, one type of government or society gives rise to another that is the opposite of this type of government or society. This results in conflict between the two types. He called it the thesis and antithesis, since they are opposites. After thesis and antithesis, ideas battle each other for an extended time without either side winning. Both sides become ready for change. This change, or synthesis, is then brought about by the creation of a third type of government or society. Broken down into its component steps, here's how Hegel's principle works. Step one, create a problem or conflict. Practitioners will either identify a potential problem or create one out of thin air. Step two, publicize the problem and create opposition to it. The left in America has a tailor-made apparatus for publicizing the problem and creating opposition among the population, the mainstream media. By constantly covering the problem from the administration's desired slant, the media makes the conflict a foregone conclusion. Step three, offer a solution. Of course, in today's America, with its soundbite mentality, the simpler the solution, the better. And there's no need for it to be logical. The best ones are those that appeal to the emotions and make the public feel that something really good is being done for them, when in reality, something really bad is being done to them, especially when it's a solution no one knew we needed before the conditioning process of the step two. It's like we've entered a surreal world.